What if your morning run wasn't just exercise, but your gateway to discovering the heart of a city? Today we're talking with Kyle from the travelrunner.com, a traveler who explores the world one run at a time. Whether it's quiet trails in the Alps or weaving through the streets of Bangkok, Kyle's story might just inspire you to pack your running shoes on your next adventure. We're Scott and Melissa, the Sunshine Travelers.
We're all about exploring the world and sharing the journey with you. Whether you're a seasoned traveler, dreaming of your next adventure, or just here for the stories.
No matter where you are on your travel journey, we've got firsthand experiences, tips, and plenty of inspiration from some of the most amazing places on Earth. So
buckle up and get ready to travel with us.
So, Melissa, I think about that time that we decided, without really much any training at all, we decided we would run the half marathon at Isla, Waco.
It was like Chip and Joanna. It was their half marathon in the city of Waco. I don't know that you're remembering this correctly, though, because that was a period of time where we had actually done a number of runs. I had probably done a few more half marathons than you, but we had done 10 milers and stuff like that. So it wasn't like we were just running.
I'm with you, but it had been like 6 months since we had done one of those, and we just decided we would up and do a half marathon. Anyhow, talking to Kyle and Kaitlyn today, we're going to hear about a different style of travel from ours. And we're going to talk about how they go to different places. And part of how they experience these destinations is through their running.
Yeah. And not just like going for a race, although that is part of it, which I think is a great reason to travel, to go to a place. But a lot of this is on their own to experience some of these different trails, but from a running perspective. And I think it's just it's a neat way to travel. It's kind of like what we did the walking in Italy, but yet from a running perspective. And actually, there's a lot more people, I think, that do this than we have thought.
Yeah. Well, let's go and talk to Kyle and Kaitlyn about that. Our guest today is a couple that we had the pleasure of meeting during one of our favorite kinds of days. It was a beach hopping tour in Puerto Rico. And that's where we first connected with Kyle and Kaitlyn. Kyle's the creator of the Travel Runner. Kyle quickly discovered that his passion for travel runs deep, literally. So Kyle and Kaitlyn explore the world one stride at a time, using running as a unique and immersive way to experience new destinations. Through their blog, they share stories, tips, and trail discoveries that inspire others to see the world with fresh eyes, and maybe even a pair of running shoes. From quiet early morning jogs through unfamiliar streets to off-the-grid trail adventures, Kyle shows us that running isn't just about fitness. It's a window into culture, connection, and curiosity. So whether you're an avid runner or simply someone who loves to move through new places at your own pace, we think you're going to love hearing from Kyle and Kaitlyn today. Kyle and Kaitlyn, welcome to the Sunshine Travelers podcast. We're so glad to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we're super excited to chat with you guys today. So tell us a little bit about your backstory. So how did Travel Runner get started?
So it kind of started in two different time periods, because to be honest with you, I hated running most of my life up until I was about 27 when Kaitlyn and a friend of ours in Thailand convinced me to run a 10K. And then kind of after that, I fell in love with it. And then slowly over time, Kaitlyn and I started traveling a lot with travel running in mind, like specifically going there for a race or maybe traveling to a specific trail or national park or something like that. And then in 2021, I was actually teaching English online, and I was kind of looking to transition out of it, hopefully to something maybe marketing related, writing related. And I knew I needed to develop a portfolio. So I was just sitting in our house one day, just trying to think of a blog name to combine travel and running, which were two seemingly unrelated topics. And then over time, I just kept saying names, and eventually I said the Travel Runner, and then just kind of stuck with it from there. So that was in 2021 when that originally started. And Kaitlyn was luckily my sounding board for a lot of those names and helped me pick a good one.
So Kaitlyn, do you go out? I assume since you were an influence there, you were really the one that got him started running. Is that correct?
Yeah, to some extent, I guess you could say. A friend that we made in Phuket, Thailand, her name's Carrie, so shout out to her. She was really the one that got us into just kind of like a general fitness routine together, and she was into running at the time, and she was like, "Oh, let's do a half marathon." And I hadn't really done any like major distances like that. I always did short distance, but I was like, okay, let's do it. We got Kyle to do it, and he said he would do the 10K. And yeah, he's been a pretty consistent runner ever since then, I would say.
This is one of those people that if she's going to run, like, why stop at a half? Just go ahead and do the whole marathon, whether you've trained or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I support it. Kaitlyn also is being a bit humble. She ran track in high school and then up until your sophomore year of college, was it?
Yeah, but even then it was always just like I had never really done much more than a 5K and definitely didn't stay as probably consistent with it after college as much, maybe just like to basically stay in shape. But after that, we talked him into it, and I think he's loved it since.
Well, since you've started the travel runner, has it really changed the way that you travel now and the way that you do your sightseeing and stuff like that? Or is it just you go to a destination, make sure you get the run in and prioritize that and then enjoy for the rest?
It can be a bit of both, to be honest with you. But like now, for the most part, we travel specifically with running in mind. When Kaitlyn and I, prior to the podcast, were talking, like I said, I can't really imagine much of another way of traveling now because we just enjoy this way so much. But there definitely are those moments where maybe we're visiting a place and it's not necessarily run friendly, I guess, or maybe the sites are super far away, so maybe we can't connect them or something like that. Whereas realistically, we're waking up and we're still maybe training for a race like we both are now. We have marathons in the future, and we just need to get the run in because we need to stay consistent and train for our marathon. But for the most part, we try to do a lot of traveling specifically for running.
I would just to add a little bit onto that, I would say that it's also, especially if it's just Kyle and I traveling and going on trips together, we're definitely planning it around running or at least some sort of like major outdoor activity. If it's not running, probably hiking of some sort. So we do also travel with friends and family a lot too. Usually those are the ones that are more, I guess, your standard sightseeing as opposed to constantly being like on the run, getting our sightseeing in that way as well, which we also do like too. That's a great way to spend time with family. But when it's just the two of us, we're usually running to travel.
Are you looking to plan your next unforgettable adventure? At Sunshine Travelers Experiences, we specialize in helping you create tailor-made travel journeys that turn your vacation dreams into reality. Whether you're craving a relaxing beach escape, an awe-inspiring cultural journey, or a thrilling outdoor adventure, we can help. Why choose Sunshine Travelers Experiences? Personalized itineraries designed just for you, expert travel advice and insider tips, seamless booking from start to finish, exclusive access to top destinations and hidden gems. We also book cruises, all-inclusives, groups, tours, and so much more. If you're unsure where to even start planning that bucket list trip, start by asking us. Then let Sunshine Travelers Experiences handle the planning so you can focus on making the memories. Explore now, sunxtravel.com. If you have any questions, email us info@sunshinetravelers.com.
Yeah. And when we first met you guys in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, I just remember talking to you guys, and that's such a great way to, not necessarily that you're going to see like a ton of sites, but you just see a city in such a different way, right? You can notice a lot more things that like only locals might notice. So I just thought that was really cool. You know, as y'all talked about running, you know, getting up and doing your run and that kind of thing, in addition to what we were there for in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because especially now that we run long distance, once we realize a lot of these sites aren't that far away. So one of the best examples I give is in Rome. It's also kind of where we first got the idea of like, oh, we could continue to do this and just shape our travels around this. But so many of the sites actually aren't that far if you are a distance runner. So you can just connect a bunch of them in a little fun route. And like you said, you get to see maybe streets that you would have taken an Uber past or maybe a taxi pass or something like that, where you're actually getting to experience it. And you typically stand out because most people aren't running from attraction to attraction in a city. So sometimes locals will holler stuff out or just cheer you on or something, which is always fun, especially in the middle of a run.
Yeah, for sure. for sure. And we haven't done, that's why we were so interested to talk to you guys, because we haven't done a ton of that. We did do the half marathon in Waco, Texas back, it's been several years ago now. And that was a great way for us to go see Magnolia, as it was really big and they've developed that. So it might give you a chance to go and see places. And then of course, running through on the day of the half marathon, like running through the city. Or we are from Atlanta, and when we did the half marathons and 10 milers and stuff like that, you just see that city that maybe you grew up with or you are visiting in such a different way. So what would you say, trail running, and then compared to that Puerto Rico, Rome that you're talking about, which one do you do more of?
This one, Kate. She's the main planner.
So probably say we do more trail running. It's what both of us really enjoy the most. When we're traveling, we aren't typically going to big cities. So if we are staying in a smaller area, sometimes it is maybe harder to run right outside of our door because maybe it is a little out of the way and there aren't sidewalks. Whereas opposed to running in a big city, you do have that kind of stuff. But we do typically stick to closer to national parks or national forests or state parks, especially with our U.S. travels. So we do plan most of our destinations around, I would say, trail running more so than road.
And more races or more just doing it kind of on your own, or a mix of both?
Over the past few years, I would say it's been more doing it on our own, but the past maybe year and a half, we've ramped it up to making it more race destination based.
Okay. But it's either way, it's such a cool way to see a place and do some of these trails that you guys have done. Yeah.
Kaitlyn and I ran my first marathon in Pittsburgh back in May, and Kaitlyn ran the half marathon. So we grew up, she actually lives about 20 to 30 minutes is where she grew up from Pittsburgh, me a bit further, about 45 to an hour. But I'd been going up there my whole life, and it was a completely new way that I had never seen the city. And kind of made me appreciate it a lot more, because the whole time growing up, because I was going there so much, I was I don't want to go to Pittsburgh. But now it's so much more exciting having run through these areas and learn the city a lot more. I'm wow, actually, Pittsburgh has a lot to it that I had overlooked the majority of my life.
We actually love Pittsburgh. We think that it's an amazing town, and we have friends that live there, and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys have done so much. We've lived here our whole lives and have never done half of these things. So we've fallen in love. We were just there a couple of months ago for the U.S. Open at Oakmont.
Okay, in Oakmont.
Yeah, well, and I imagine you probably run across a lot of the bridges and just through a lot of cool areas, and they're really seem to be revitalizing the city too and restoring a lot of things. And there's a lot of beautiful old buildings. So I'm sure that was just a superb way to see Pittsburgh as well.
Yeah, for sure. And the people get out for it. It's awesome.
There were, I think, thousands of people lining the streets supporting the runners. It was awesome.
Signs that say, this is the worst parade ever.
Yeah. People come out with some good ones.
They're good ones.
Hey there, Sunshine Travelers. If you love finding incredible travel experiences without overpaying, you've got to check out Travel Deal Insiders.
It's our 3-time weekly newsletter where we send you the best cruise, resorts, all-inclusive, tours, and other really cool travel deals we find, with a few cheap flight deals thrown in too. Handpicked and curated, no spam, no fluff.
We dig through the offers every week and send you only the best. Think luxury for less cruises, last-minute getaways, and travel tips to help you book smarter so that you can travel more.
Join now for just $5 a month. That's a savings of $24 a year.
Let's be real. Booking just one deal could save you so much. It makes this $5 membership like a total steal. We're talking 50 times, even 100 times, and more the value right back into your pocket.
Head to sunshinetravelers.com/deals and enter the code podcast to get this exclusive listener deal.
Travel more, spend less, skip the search. We'll see you inside.
So, talking about some of the cities that you've run in, do you guys have a favorite city that or trail as you got out and kind of laced up your shoes in the morning and got out running, and all of a sudden you decided, wow, this is one of the best places I think we've ever run in?
So this was actually tough, because while we were discussing, we were thinking of some of the ideas, we both had different answers and for different reasons. So for example, mine actually was Quebec, which we just went for TBEX. And I think it's largely because I didn't expect it. I knew it was going to be cool, but I woke up the first morning and went on a run through the Old Town, and I was just like, wow, this is incredibly beautiful. And there was no one out because it was so early. So I really got to appreciate it just by myself in silence. And so that was really cool. And the first one that stands out in my mind, especially because it's recent.
And so for me, I would say Theth National Park. It's in northern Albania. A lot of the mountains that you'll see there are part of the Albanian Alps. There weren't a whole lot of people. We were there, I believe it was like July of 2022. And it was just unbelievably beautiful. The mountains, it felt like you were in like all of those places like Switzerland or the Dolomites that you hear about, but Albania is not one that you hear about. So that one was definitely special. And just there were endless amounts of trails that we could have covered. Obviously, we were there for a limited time and only hit like 2 of the major ones. But even those ones, like we were speechless the whole time.
So a little more off the beaten path, almost like a hidden gem, would you say? Yeah.
Especially for runners. It's becoming more popular among travelers, I'm hearing. But I know for runners especially, I'd say it's not. Nobody's thinking like, oh, I'm going to go run in Albania. At least that I know.
Yeah. So real quick, while we're on that, so now that we've heard your favorites, maybe to give people an idea, listeners an idea, what are some of the other places like that would be the runner-up, some of the other places that you have done some of these runs?
So I know Kyle's mentioned it and we just got back from there, but New Hampshire, White Mountain National Forest, it is absolutely beautiful. The trails there are a little bit more technical. So honestly, we did spend a lot of even time on our trail runs hiking, but it's just unbelievable. I think you hear so much about there are so many trails in the West and the mountains in the West, which is true. We love Colorado, Arizona, Wyoming, all of those places, but I don't think you hear as much about New Hampshire. And it was beautiful.
No, you really don't. You're right. Yeah.
Think about it for the fall foliage or White Christmas or something like that. But
Absolutely. In my opinion, it's well known among travelers, but I don't think as much for running. And it's probably because we lived there longest, and that was Phuket in Thailand. So obviously it's world famous for like beaches and things like that, but there's actually a lot of trails there. And we were there during COVID when everything kind of closed down and we couldn't do a whole lot. So I spent the majority of my time just running on the trails in the hills above like Patong and the different areas of it. And we actually connected like an entire route from almost the northern part to the southern part of the island, almost exclusively on trails. So I don't think as many people think, oh, I'm going to go to Phuket and run. It's more, I'm going to go to Phuket, party, and lay on the beach.
I had never heard of anybody doing that. And you actually have a good bit of information about that in your blog post and on your website. So if somebody's thinking, I want to go do some of that, right? See Thailand, go to the beaches, but I'm also a runner or would like to investigate some of these hikes, that is a really great resource as well. Because I never would have even have thought to do that.
I didn't either the first time I went there, so it's understandable.
I guess that kind of leads us to our next question, and I think Kaitlyn, it's probably directed towards you. Is like, do you have some favorite tools or resources that you use when planning a trip, so that you can plan out, hey, where can we go and visit a great location, but also get our run in? And I imagine, just like us, you're thinking about content as well for the travelrunner.com.
Absolutely. So I guess the main place where I start would be kind of pulling up both like Airbnb and also using AllTrails, looking at the maps to determine like what types of places are in what locations, what trails they're closest to, whether that's just like a local park or a national park, state park, whatever that would be. And then I kind of pass a lot of the actual route plan when it comes to the running off to Kyle. We do use Strava for that, and I'll explain a little bit more from there.
Yeah, so she'll do the majority of the planning, like as far as finding where we're staying, typically where we're going. We have mostly same interests, so when she comes up and suggests a place, I'm typically just like, yeah, sounds cool, let's go. So she'll do all of like the location research, where to eat, where to stay. And then I'll do most of the route planning because I'm typically the one doing the navigating as well. And I use Strava, which has, if you don't know what it is, it's kind of like, I always say like Facebook and Garmin had a baby aimed at cyclists and runners, because it has a social aspect to it, but it's largely based around running or cycling, different athletic events, basically. And it's a way for you to track your training too. So they have a really cool feature that's called Maps, and it shows a heat map of where other Strava runners have run. And now this is a super popular app, so almost any city you go to, you can easily find where everybody's running. So I typically will plan our routes based off of that. And you end up seeing a lot of locals in that area too, because that's typically who's running there. I do have a full YouTube video on that as well, how I do that. So that might be something to check out as well.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And we can link that in the show notes as well to check out, because I mean, that's really a great point, because right, when you start going somewhere and walking, or in your case, running, it's different from being in a car, right? Where you can just turn around and, okay, I'm not in a good location, or you really kind of do need to know, okay, this is a safe location. You know, I can get from point A to point B, et cetera. So I think that's a great tip.
It's also because like AllTrails is only technically not official trails, but like user submitted trails as well. And there's a lot of those that somebody's not just going to add their local morning loop to AllTrails, but they did run it. So it's on Strava. So I use this in Costa Rica to find exactly where most people are going. I ended up finding a park right in the middle of San Jose that I didn't know existed at the time, strictly because I could just see these heavy blue lines just in the area. So I knew to zoom in and find. And then I just pulled up Airbnb and found my Airbnb right next to it.
It's a really good idea.
That is really cool. Yes, very cool.
And honestly, Google is even getting a lot better at marking those more public trails too, where if you're just like within your map and you search running trails near me, it will typically pull up like any that would be like a state park or local park that are regularly visited.
Have you guys ever had a memorable like interaction with locals when you're running in a destination that you've been to?
Yeah. So honestly, our very first actual like destination run that made us think, oh, wow, like why haven't we ever done this before, was with I think it was an Airbnb experience that we saw.
Yeah.
And it was with a guy named Fabrizio in Rome. And we met him and we had like a meeting location at a cafe, and we met in the morning, and then we like set out and we ran all throughout Rome. I think it was about a 10K run. We ran past the Colosseum, by the Roman Forum, and we would stop at each spot and he would explain a bit of the history and everything behind it. So that was the first one that really sticks out to me as like, this was such a positive and amazing experience with a local, but also something that made us realize, why haven't we been doing this the past few years we've been traveling?
That's really cool. Have you seen other ones in like other cities? Because like you're saying, like I would have never have heard of that, you know?
So I ended up finding it. I actually didn't know it existed. I just happened to stumble upon it. And then I was like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. I've seen it in a handful of other cities, but it's not super common. But I think it's something that a lot more people should be doing personally, because I think there's enough runners who travel that I'd sign up for a little history lesson around the city in almost every place I go.
Right. Because you hear about the walking tours, but then that's a great way for you, like you said, to get your training in and, see some of these sites, see if you might want to go back and explore them more, but then just have some history. That's a really cool. Yeah, that's a super cool experience.
Well, it was even cooler because Fabrizio actually told us at the end, he asked us what our trip was, and we were going to other parts of Italy and then coming back to Rome. And he is like, well, when you come back, if you want to do another run, get a hold of me, no charge, we can just go do it. And we ended up meeting up with them. And I say this all the time to people. It's one of my coolest memories of traveling. We're just standing at an intersection waiting for the light to change so we can go across. And he just casually points over and goes, over there is where Julius Caesar was killed. And I'm just like, you're just saying that so casually. And that's like such a huge moment in history. But it's like, it's kind of what I love about those running tours is you do get to see so much and learn things like that while doing something that obviously I enjoy doing. So that's fun.
That makes me think of another question is like when you're doing these runs, because you're a content creator, do you take the time to stop and actually capture content along the way and more or less document your run?
This is something I'm trying to get better at. I'm constantly trying to get better at this because it is tough. Because it is also, you don't want to interrupt your run and you do want to enjoy it and also enjoy the area. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, that is what I do. So I'm slowly starting to find a balance of how to do that without disrupting the run or not getting enough content. But it is tough because obviously it's that classic thing where I'm setting down the camera, running off, and then turning around and have to run back and touch the camera, which is always gets a laugh out of the people surrounding. So it makes it a little bit fun and a laugh at myself moment.
We did some of that recently, did a walking tour in Italy, and you'd set up the camera on the trail and walk to it and past it and, stuff like that. What would you say has been your most adventurous and even maybe your most disastrous run that you've ever done?
So for me, in disastrous, I would definitely say, so Kyle and I were on a trip in Flagstaff, and he was running. I can't remember the name of the trail right now, but he was running down and he like slipped on one rock and he hit his head. And he had a decent gash on his head. So I, of course, kind of went into panic mode and was just like, oh no, what do we do? We have to get down the trail. And I was once again panicking, like running as fast as I can. And he's just like nonchalantly holding a t-shirt on his head, like pretty much at a walking pace. And I'm just trying to run to keep up with him. So that one sticks out in my memory. It's pretty disastrous. And it wasn't even me that it happened to.
Okay. Have you ever had a situation where you are running and you wondered, okay, is this safe? Is something, that kind of thing?
Definitely a lot of situations. So normally what we'll do, if I am in an area where I'm kind of unsure how safe it is, I'll typically go by myself and have Kaitlyn stay. So I can we say recce in running. So just recon, kind of like get a lay of the land, essentially, because I feel a lot safer if I need to get out of a situation when I'm by myself than if Kaitlyn's with me, because then I'm obviously going to try to protect her first. Whereas I'm confident that most people are not going to be able to catch me if I need to run away from them. I'm not the fastest person in the world, but I can get away if I need to. But so I'll typically get
all you got to do is kick him in the leg. The fastest.
Exactly. But so I'll typically look that over. But one time in particular, when we were in Albania, we were in Saranda, and I had gone out for this longer run by myself. And so the biggest fear I have, honestly, when we're running, especially abroad, is typically stray dogs. They're never fun to come across. And I'd come upon an area where I had a feeling somewhere. It just seems like an area after running this much, you kind of get a sense. And normally what I'll do is I'll just start walking because they're not going to chase me. Well, they might, but I have more time to react. And sure enough, one came bolting out from under a car at me. Unfortunately, after this, I pick up rocks that are nearby. So if they do come near, I can at least throw it at the ground and try and scare it off. I don't try to intentionally hit the dog, but in that situation, you're just trying to get out of the situation as fast as possible. So that's normally the situation I'm in, is dogs coming running up.
Okay. Well, so that's interesting. So it's not really anything where that app is going to, help. But that's a great tip, because that does happen.
Yeah.
Probably more common in, countries abroad, right? Where the dogs are just, everywhere.
Yeah, I've had it a few times in the US, but it's not typical. But definitely stray dogs abroad is where I've had more of an issue with that. And I have enough street sense that if I sense an area is kind of sketchy as far as maybe danger or crime, I'll just turn around and retrace my steps and make it an out and back run instead of a loop like I was planning or something like that. There's no reason to risk it when I don't have much of a reward out of risking it.
I also usually carry I have a small thing of pepper spray too that I carry with me on runs. And then if we're in the mountains or on trail running, we typically carry a bear spray as well.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. Very good.
One of the things that our listeners always want to hear about is, kind of packing tips and things like that. So do you have gear that you always bring with you while you're running, or is there just the same thing that you would have at home and you're in a different location?
So for me, the hardest part is actually it sounds simple, but the shoe situation, especially because we run both road and trail. So what I'll most often do if we're running on the road, I'll have a pair of running shoes that'll double as my casual shoes. So ideally, they're not crazy looking to where I can't wear them with just an outfit if I'm going out to eat, or I need to maybe go somewhere that's not necessarily nice, but I still want to look presentable. So typically that's one of my hardest decisions, is trying to find that, because I also have big feet. I wear a size 12, so it takes up a considerable amount of my packing room. So I have to be very selective with what shoes I bring. So I try to limit that because I pack light as well.
Luckily, too, the last 2 years that we've been traveling, a lot of it has been within the US and a lot of it has been road trips and driving. So we haven't had to worry as much about limiting that kind of stuff, because we've had so much room to kind of just be like, oh, if we might need this, we can just take it in the car. So I think we'll definitely, at least I definitely will face more of a challenge on that, on international travel, especially if we're planning an international running destination in a cold place. If it's a warm place, I can usually bring my standard stuff in a backpack or a carry-on and a personal item, but I would definitely be tested with that if we were going somewhere cold for a trail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
We try not to do that, though. We like warmth.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was recently with a colleague, and she was traveling here from the UK, And she was going, in all fairness, she was here for 2 weeks. But the day that she was leaving, she had brought her suitcase into the office. And I was just dying laughing. I was like, we make reels about Americans taking these big, huge suitcases to Europe. And look at you, like this, you got a body stuffed in there or something. But, her point was, think about it. She's like, I was here for several weekends, so I just needed stuff that I could wear on the weekend. She was like, I needed stuff for our business meetings when we were all together. And then she was like, and I needed stuff for my workout and my run. And so she was like, it takes up a lot of space. So, it's always a challenge to try to keep that. And I admire you guys for trying to do a carry-on and like a backpack when you travel, because that's definitely how we recommend.
Yeah, but like you had, it's a really good point to say, let me have some running shoes and we'll do the same thing. We'll have some tennis shoes that are, a little bit nicer that you can wear, you can work out in, that kind of thing too. So that's a really great tip as well. So on your website, I love how you have like the homepage laid out. If people want to kind of get started, you have start here, start here, start here. So maybe talk about that a little bit. And then maybe if somebody is just getting into this or thinking, hey, this is really interesting, this would be an interesting way to get off of the beaten path, see things a little differently, maybe where should they start?
So honestly, yeah, I laid that out specifically like that because when I did first start this, even after I started the blog, the first thing I thought was like, are there actually people who do this? Like I kind of started it on a whim. So I didn't know where to go myself. So that's one reason I laid that out that way, because here's the basics. Here's how you can get started. So generally speaking, there's the best. One thing I'm doing now more this year is focusing more on YouTube. So that's an area to look for more tips coming out and more like of the runcation, how I plan it, different stuff like that. But it is tough because a lot of people don't really cover this. I always say there's travelers who dabble in some running, and then there's runners who dabble in some travel, but there's nothing really in the middle that does it. That's what I'm trying to do. But there are other resources who I do think do a good job. It's mostly like people on YouTube who are like Kofuzi is a guy that I recommend. He talks a lot about running trips and stuff like and what he does. But honestly, it sounds really self-promotional, but I have had a lot of trouble finding resources that actually discuss what I cover. So for not trying to sound like a broken horn, my website, honestly, I think is one of the few ones.
Yeah, no, I loved it. So definitely, if this is something that interests you, definitely go check that out, because like I said, I love the way you had, start here or start here or start here, kind of depending on what information you need to know. And you've got a lot of great locations out there. And then, of course, some of the gear and stuff that you've talked about too, because you definitely want to have the right equipment, just not go out in a pair of kids or whatever. And
for sure.
I knew a guy when I worked in Columbus, and he ran barefoot every day.
So there is an entire movement of that. And I honestly, like, if people can't continually do that, I give them credit. But in my first 10K that I mentioned in Thailand, one of my most memorable moments was I heard someone coming behind me, and I'm like dying at this point. This is in the middle of the race. I'm like, I don't know if I can finish this. And I look to my right as they pass me, and it is a woman who's probably about 5 years younger than me in her bare feet, just blowing past me. And I was like, that might be the most demoralizing thing that could have just happened at that moment.
But you're like, I'm finishing.
Yeah, I was like, I'm finishing. And honestly, it was inspirational to an extent too, because what you're like, if people are out here running in their bare feet and like crushing it, what else can you do really?
Well, I just admire you for the trail running, because I would trip on a route like probably a mile in. So I've done some of the other ones, trail running, not so much.
For sure. Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah, I'm too prone to injury these days to do more than to walk on a flat surface.
Hey, movement, that's good.
We've got a lot of friends that love to run, and even when they go places, they try to make sure to keep that exercise in. And so I think really your website and your content is perfect, because while they don't have to choose a location based on going for a run, while they are in a place, they can come and check out your site, check out the resources that you mentioned, and see if they can find, just somewhere more interesting than treadmill in the hotel to go out and get their exercise in.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of treadmills personally, so I know that one very, very well because I always try to avoid it. And yeah, there's tons of destinations that I plan on adding because we visited more places than I've written about. It's just finding the time on top of, as you guys know, doing the million things, all the plates that you're spinning and everything, trying to find the time to hit all of the places that you visit, because we've run in a lot of places at this point. And I kind of have a backlog.
Right.
We've talked a lot about the running part, but how do you balance it with also just the kind of taking some time to relax and do the sightseeing and stuff like that?
So we do typically try to stay in a place when we're there for at least a week. If we could stay for a month or two, we would love it. But the reason, honestly, we end up staying for a week and not just 1 or 2 days is because within those 2 or 3 days, you're probably us just doing nothing and hanging out at our Airbnb, whether that's catching up on work or figuring out what we're going to do next, or just like hanging out and watching Netflix or something. I think we space it out ultimately by staying in places longer than maybe just like a weekend or 1 or 2 nights stay. And being like remote is definitely something that helps us be able to do that.
We're also kind of low key when it comes to things outside of that. Like, we don't really party. We don't do a whole lot. Like, we'll go to a bar in a local area and like maybe have some drinks or have some good food, or if there's an event going on. But for the most part, we're relatively relaxed outside of running. Like, we enjoy going and seeing places, obviously, and stuff like that. But since we're now like basing a lot of it around running, the other times just recovery, which consists of us stuffing our faces and lying around.
Well, that sounds good. And you said you're not like big city people either, right? So a lot of times there's not that I've got to go to this museum and that museum and see this landmark as well. So yeah, so I think that's just a different kind of travel style that rejuvenates you and then allows you to, see the things that you want to see.
Yeah, I'm from a very small town. I grew up in a town of 1,200 people, maybe 1,600 on a good day, but it's very small. So when I go to cities, I'm just like, oh my goodness, there's so much happening right now. So I try to avoid them, generally speaking.
Well, so you write and share a lot of content through your blog, thetravelrunner.com. What do you hope readers take away from this blog? And, how would you recommend that they get the most out of it?
So kind of piggybacking off the answer I gave a little while ago, it's ultimately help because, as I mentioned, there weren't a lot of resources. I even have trouble with thinking of a lot of people that do it. So number one primarily would be help, and whether it's finding a destination or it's like you guys mentioned, packing gear, planning, logistics, anything like that around that. If I can give you help, I'm satisfied at the end of the day. Second would be inspiration. There's nothing, honestly, that like as I get older, I notice I get a more emotional around things I never used to get emotional around. But like when people message me and tell me, hey, I'm running because of you, or you inspired me, like honestly, it makes me choke up and tear up a bit, which is something I never would have done in the past. But that's a really heartwarming thing because, people are making good life change for one. And also, I truthfully think that more people would enjoy running if they could approach it, because I think we have a wrong interpretation of running, which is you need to sprint your brains out and hate it, which I think you can actually make it fun and explore as well, as we've done.
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal way. It's like Scott referenced the walking trip in Italy, right? So we aren't probably going to be as much runners as we used to, but that's a way that we can kind of see. But it really does let you see places in such a different light. But then, of course, it's like you mentioned before, it takes time to do that. Walking probably even more so to cover that ground, but it allows you to slow down and just experience that travel in a whole different way as well.
Just to add on to that, the running community is honestly so awesome too as a whole. Just whether it's actual people running or the people who come out, the volunteers for races, it's really cool to see how many people who just to scream their heads off and cheer for strangers at the Pittsburgh Marathon. It's really cool. Yeah, that's also one of the best parts.
I think that's one of the things we always enjoyed because for years we did the Peachtree Road Race and the Atlanta Half and stuff like that. And you'd have all the running clubs, like the high school teams that would come out and they weren't running in the race, but they would cheer you on. And, sometimes they'd run alongside you for a little while, just kind of encouraging you. And so I think a lot of people really enjoy being out there and being supportive. And so that's a good part of it as well. We talked about the travelrunner.com. What other places can people find any of your content?
So typically, as I mentioned, YouTube, I'm starting to put a lot more effort into. There's a lot of runners go to YouTube, especially for like destinations or race coverage. That's really big. That's one reason we're also shifting to races as well, because there's tons that I want to run and I've kind of just slacked on it. Also, Instagram is where I post most of like my daily content, whether it's stories or reels. And then Kaitlyn also has her own little thing that she's working on.
I do have a blog called Trail Eats. It's up and coming. It's still definitely needs some work, but that is coming. Just I wanted to clarify that on, I believe it's Instagram and YouTube, Kyle is the Travel Runner official. So
YouTube, it does not have official, but
okay.
Instagram, somebody took the Travel Runner and it was already gone by the time I went for it, unfortunately.
Okay. So the blog is thetravelrunner.com. Your Instagram is the Travel Runner official. And then just the Travel Runner on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah,
and Kaitlyn,
exactly.
tell us again where we can find yours and look for what you've got coming.
Right now it's just traileats.com.
Traileats.com. Okay. And are you going to focus more on like food type?
Yes. So primarily the stuff that we're eating like on the trail primarily. Right now focused on recipes, but I also been thinking about, we do a lot of eating out while we're like on these trails. So thinking about maybe doing some restaurant features and stuff like that in there too, seeing how I can do that.
And that's awesome because, I mean, that is such a huge part of traveling, right? So like, you're like, okay, let's run this trail. For other people, let's go to this museum or go see this site. But then what are we going to eat, right? We got to eat 3 times a day or have our snacks or whatever, right? So, and then of course you've got to, like you said, have stuff for on the trail. And then it's a little bit more probably nutrition focused than just people who are on vacation. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I tell a lot of people like that's like we travel to run, but with running you're burning so many calories and everything that we also travel to eat. We hit a local spot everywhere we go, and we try to generally find like different types of food as well, or based on reviews, what's the most popular in the town. So we generally try to pig out when we're in a place too, if we can.
Yeah, love that.
So Kaitlyn, the place that I go to here on the island called the Stretch Zone, my stretch therapist is trail runner, and she talks about that her favorite go-to thing to eat on the trail are nerd clusters. And I thought, oh my God, surely that's not the right.
I think that's a whole movement. Kyle loves nerd gummy clusters.
You go to my Instagram, I just posted a reel about this last week, a week and a half ago.
Oh,
exactly.
There's your validation right there.
Yep.
I'm with you.
There are 3 questions that we ask all of our guests before we wrap up. And so the first one is, what is your favorite destination you've ever visited? And so you can both have your own favorite.
My favorite, I would say Peru, more specifically the Salcantay trek that we did to Machu Picchu. Those mountains were just unbelievable. It's the most fun I think I've ever had.
Is that the long trail or the shorter trail?
Honestly, I think it is a little bit longer than the Inca trail.
It's like a couple of days, and then there's one that's like 4 miles or something.
Oh, no, yeah.
We did like a 4-day one.
Sorry, I'm not going to say, I loved the Salcantay trek, but the first day of that, I was actually sick with altitude sickness, so that was a miserable day for me. But I will say Albania, probably because we expected a lot, but what we ended up getting, especially as Kaitlyn mentioned in that national park, we didn't expect and it blew us away. We loved how warm the people were, and honestly, the trails that we ran there, I didn't expect to be as beautiful as they were. And it was kind of just like the entire trip was just one big happy time, essentially, I guess is the best way to put it. And we did a lot of running there. So Albania definitely stands out.
Sounds like we've got a new place to add to our bucket list.
Highly recommend.
One of our guests had recommended the stands doing the reverse Silk Road. And so in one of the locations that we actually researched early on this year was Kyrgyzstan. And it looked like it was one of those places where you probably have some great trails that you could go and run. Or, if you're not into running, you can get in a 4-wheel drive and they take you through trails as well.
And then T-Bex next year is going to be in one of them. I don't remember right off the top of my head.
Kazakhstan?
I think you're right.
I believe it's Kazakhstan. I'm about 98% positive it's Kazakhstan.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think you're right. So we may we'll maybe hopefully meet y'all there and check that one of those.
I want to go.
Yes.
You flew all the way here for this.
Yeah. There you go.
I'll have to remember that.
And then tell us what else is on your bucket list. Yeah, for travel. Yeah, running or no, just, places to go, or if there's somewhere in particular or a trail that you want to do.
For me, it is Patagonia. Chile has been somewhere I've been really wanting to go for a long time. I know like the outdoor hiking scene is big, so I would like to see if we would be able to do some trail runs and get some running in, kind of make it a runcation while we were there. That is the number one place I want to go. For sure.
And then for me would be the Dolomites. I want to do you guys know what fast packing is? Or I don't know if your audience, I don't think most people are familiar with it. So you know what backpacking is in terms of hiking. It's just that, except you'll have a lighter pack and you run instead of hiking. So it's basically like same style, you'll camp out or go hut to hut. But it's ideal to be a multi-day adventure. So I would like to do something like that in the Dolomites and maybe go hut to hut. Or if I could camp, I have gear to camp as well. So I'm looking to get more into that because you can cover longer distances and make it a multi-day trek basically. And we also enjoy camping. So it kind of plays right into that as well.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. Well, both of those places are on our bucket list as well. But yeah, just that, both of those for, like you said, for the trail running and stuff like that. Sounds amazing.
And so finally, where are you guys going next?
So I will actually be headed back to the Quebec region here in about a month and a half. One of the tourism boards that was actually at TVEX invited me to come run one of their ultra marathons, which is called AllTrails. I will probably say this incorrectly. Forion. I don't speak French, so I'm very bad at it, but they invited me to come run it, cover it. And so I responded to them and I plan on driving up there. Kaitlyn, unfortunately, can't come because her mom is hitting her 50th birthday. So she'll be celebrating with her mom when we do that. But then we will actually both meet up in Maine after that for a trip with my mom and then some of my family members where we'll go to Acadia National Park, which we've been to, but we're excited to go back to. And then after that, we'll see. We kind of fly by the seat of our pants on a lot of our travels. Trips pop up last moment a lot of the time.
And it's great to be flexible. We typically kind of do that too. So as well, I think when we talked, I was like, yeah, we're not going to end up going to Ireland, but we're going to Ireland. So it's going to happen. So we are going. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Anywhere else for you, Kaitlyn, or is that pretty much?
That's pretty much it. Maybe a stop in New Hampshire on the way back from Maine, but we'll see. You never know.
Yeah. Awesome. And so I'm assuming you'll be doing some trails in the national park as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, in February of next year, we'll send you pictures from Patagonia. We're going to actually go to the very southern part of Patagonia right before we leave for Antarctica. So we get
I was going to ask what you said. Okay.
The park down there on the very southern tip near Ushuaia.
On the Argentina part of it. But yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That'll be amazing.
That's going to be good. I'm looking forward to the pictures from that one.
Yes, we're super excited.
Well, Kyle and Kaitlyn, thank you for joining us on the podcast today. And we look forward to the next time we get to see you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, us too. We're looking forward to seeing you guys, hopefully in maybe one of the stands or somewhere.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Sure. Thanks, Ed.
So running might not be for everyone, but Kyle reminds us that how we choose to explore a place can shape how we remember it, whether it's through food or walking or yes, even running. We all have a way to connect more deeply with the world. So maybe next trip, I'll send those sneakers. Who knows where they'll take you? And as always, the world is full of sunshine and surprises. Make 2025 the year that you explore beyond the familiar. That's a wrap on this episode. We hope it gave you some inspiration for your next adventure.
If you enjoyed the show, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps others find us and keeps the travel conversations going.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss a new episode.
And come hang out with us on Instagram or Facebook at Sunshine Travelers Podcast. That's Travelers with 1 L.
Most importantly, share this episode with a friend. You never know, they just might become your next great travel companion.